Okay, we're back. Review time. Let me just get up the review sheet here. I'll put it up here. In the middle here. Any final thoughts on healthcare? We'll talk about it a bit further as we go through the review. Yeah.
I saw these. I think you had an essay on
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Sure. So I have an essay in there called A Modest Healthcare Proposal. Getting started here. So there's an essay that I talked about, I think, a little bit in the last class about a healthcare called A Modest Healthcare Proposal. And, you know, there's irony there because it's anything but modest. It'd be a radical change from what we have now. But the basic idea is, why do we have this system? The system we have right now is a government system. It's not a market system. So you'll hear people that want single payer talk about how our healthcare system is a private system. But it's got massive government subsidies, regulations, and controls. You don't have competition because each state, each state gang has its requirements that it places on insurance for that state. So if you want to get insurance, you're stuck with an Oregon company. Those Oregon companies have to comply with the requirements for insurance that say, if you're going to offer insurance in Oregon, you have to cover all these things. And I can't say, oh, you know what I want? I don't really, I'm a pretty healthy person. I exercise, vegetarian. I watch what I eat. I gain a few pounds, but I'm otherwise healthy. And I just want something in case I get cancer, that I don't lose all my assets. I want to get the best treatment. I want something to cover, cancer, catastrophic accidents, like if I get in a wreck. I don't really need, transgender reassignment surgery. I don't think that's in my future. Plastic surgery, I'm not that vain. Hair replacement, I like to pay that out of my own pocket. It's probably, rather than paying a premium every month, if I ever decide my hair starts to go and I want to see, let's see if I can get that transplant surgery, I'll pay for that out of pocket. But I can't, but it's against the law for me to buy a policy like that. I have to buy a policy which has the state of Oregon stamp approval on it. And if I say, well, to hell with Oregon, I'm going to buy a policy from Arkansas, then maybe they'll offer me something, right? I can't do that. It's illegal for me to do that, and it would be illegal for an Arkansas company to sell in Oregon without meeting the Oregon requirements. So that's not competition. You have all these different markets, and then what happens, the more things you put on there, massage therapy, aromatherapy, I think our health insurance covers massage, mental health, if I'm going to see a shrink, I'll get religion and talk to a priest or something, or a minister, or I'll use my friends as, surrogate counselors, right, or something, right? I don't need mental health coverage. I'm not going to go on the psychiatric drugs. And if I don't want to be insured for those things, it's going to cost me less. Now, in a system like that, it might cost people that want more coverage in the sort of Cadillac plan. It's going to cost them a little more. That drives up the cost for everyone because it has to cover these things. And the more you cover, the more the plan's going to cost, the more unaffordable it's going to be for the average person. And so that's so there's lack of competition because of the government system. Also, nobody knows what anything costs. Why is that? Because it's all funded by insurance. Why is it funded by insurance? Whose fault is that? Maybe a good test question. Why is it that healthcare is funded through insurance and it's provided by employers primarily? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or Roosevelt, as some say. So Roosevelt had wage controls in the Depression as part of his economic policy, trying to get us out of the Depression. Stupid idea. A stupid idea not only on the face of it because it didn't work, but also it also had unintended consequences. Businesses want to recruit the best employees. They're competing for business. That's what businesses do. They want the best employees. If you cap what you can charge someone with, what do you have left to attract them, right? Suppose you got a business in Arkansas. Who the hell wants to move to Arkansas? No offense to any people in Arkansas. That would be one of the last places I would move. So, or maybe Georgia would be worse. I don't know. So, but as I think about where I'd want to move, hot, sticky summers, and suppose like your company's in some backwater. It's you're going to lose all your business. You're going to get like the really good salesmen and managers. They're going to be working in California, right, where the weather is nice, or maybe like a bustling metropolis like New York. And so what are you going to do to try to get some good people there? Think about this sort of like sports teams, the way they like to lure star players. The best players, they're getting these multi-million-dollar salaries. Why are they making so much? Well, it's because the manager wants the best players to beat the competition. Well, businesses do the same thing. But if you say, oh, you can only pay a player, say, $100,000 a year, what are you going to do? How are you going to get the best player to come to your team? And so they offered fringe benefits. And one of those things is healthcare. So it doesn't count as a wage, but it's something you can give as part of a compensation package. This got people in the habit of expecting their employer to offer fringe benefits. And then after a while, all the good jobs had fringe benefits. And people go to apply for a job and they say, here's the salary and here's the benefits. And people got to this idea of health coverage and insurance. And people used to just pay out of pocket. And doctors would make house calls. And doctors would spend more than 5 minutes with you. And then to further cement this into the healthcare system as it is now, they, in addition to making this sort of enticing businesses to do this through wage controls, you also had let's see, following us through here. So the wage, they let them have it as a tax write-off. So you let, the federal government said businesses, but not individuals, can write off the cost of their health care. So if you're a business and you offer health care to your employee, you get to write it off. If you're an individual working for a company and you want to buy your own health care, you can't write it off. What does this do? The power to tax is the power to destroy. So it got rid of this this idea of individuals buying their own health insurance, and suddenly you had companies doing it. And there's some other reasons, like companies can get like a volume discount, I suppose, and see, but other things, economies of scale, which might have favored the employee system, the employer system. But by and large, it's because of the government policy that people expect to get health care funded by your employer. Now, the other thing is the employer used to pay for the whole thing, but because of the way the system's set up with heavy government subsidies and regulations and more regulations, the cost goes up, and suddenly the employer says, well, I can't afford this anymore, you have to kick in a little bit. And then pretty soon you're paying half, right? And then maybe you're even paying more than half. So that's how we got our current system. So how do we get back to a system with better prices, better quality? Well, more competition. What do? Allow companies to compete across state lines. That's in the Mackey idea. And then go to a fee-for-service model. Take away the tax break for companies offering health care, and maybe give it to individuals. And then what do you do with people, at the very bottom? One of the things I suggest is take that Medicare provision and let people buy their own health insurance. So let people have a health savings account where they get to keep the money, just pile it up in the bank, put in some conservative investments maybe, and it's not taxed. It'll encourage people to save. And then you could allow people to take a portion of their Social Security and have that as part of a health savings account. And so that way you have this big pile of money to draw on when you get sick. And then you could have catastrophic insurance for the people that can't afford it. And let me share like an experience that I had with healthcare. So when I was in graduate school, I had strep throat, I had strep before. I know what strep throat was. It was either strep or one of its malignant cousins, and I know the antibiotics would cure it. But can I go out and buy antibiotics? No. I have to get a doctor's permission slip. So what do? Well, I'm thinking about mulling over my options, and I'm driving by this strip mall, and there's this clinic there, and it's like a medical clinic. I'm like, oh, what's this all about? So I go in there and find out what the deal is, and they give me a form to fill out, and it takes me like 5 minutes to fill out the form. I hand it there, and they say, okay, the doctor will see you in a few minutes, and in 2 or 3 more minutes, the doctor, after he looked over my form, he called me in his office, looked at my throat, said, yep, looks like strep, and he says, tell you what, I'm not going to make you go home and sit and wait for these tests to come up. He took a culture. He said, I'll do this culture, I'll send it to the lab, and I'll call you tonight and let you know if it's strep. But, it's going to get really bad, so you should start taking these antibiotics right away, and you can fill those at the pharmacy next door. And if it's not strep, I'll call you in the morning and say, stop taking the antibiotics. And you take a couple of pills, it's not going to harm you if it's something else that can't be treated. And you can come back in and we'll take it from there, but we want to nip this thing in the bud. I'm thinking, oh, proactive doctor, I kind of like this, right? So he gives me the script. I'm out of there in less than 15 minutes at the pharmacy next door, and I get like some generic antibiotics, and I'm cured. And out of pocket, I spent about $100. Well, other people at the time are spending like $200 a month every month paying for insurance coverage. And I don't think I went to the doctor again for another 3 or 4 years. So that kind of fee-for-service model, being able to see the doctor right away, minimal forms, not dealing with insurance, not having to give them my group number, not having to see whether something's paid for routine, everyday medical care, is the sort of thing that will keep costs low. Now, you get fewer and fewer of those clinics around because it's just tough for them to operate around all the regulations that the state puts on them. And most people, they have coverage from their employer of some kind or other, and so the market for this is really small because the employer system, the insurance-based system, and the government system all squeeze these things out and make it difficult for them to operate. But I think if you move to something like that and then did some of the things that John Mackey talked about doing, which is sort of giving people incentives for working out at a gym, eating healthy food, and so on, then you end up with the more so-called preventative medicine, and costs get kept down, and the costs go down, quality goes up when you have true competition. And when people know what it costs, because if there was a clinic there, say there were 3 clinics, so I'd call around and say, so what do you charge for a doctor visit? Okay, and I might call 3, just like you get an estimate from a mechanic or something, right? You call around, estimate for anything. You get 3 estimates, and people would shop around. Now people don't know what procedures cost. The doctors don't even know typically. Yeah.
That's actually what we did. I was a manager for a small construction company, and so I shopped around for different clinics. We couldn't afford the group health insurance. I was all excited thinking we were going to. It was too expensive. So we didn't offer that, but we did offer regular physicals and vaccines if they wanted them, tetanus shots, things that would help prevent some sick days, things that benefited the company as well. And we found a clinic that would give a discount if we sent people there. So we paid for that visit, and then the clinic also agreed that if they had other things going on, they would give them the same discount.
Yeah, sounds like a good deal. Think about if you had this whole insurance idea. Think about if you had food insurance. I talked about this last time. I mean, what would happen to the cost of food, particularly the steak and bacon and things that people like, and just go through the roof, right? So, and it's stupid to think about food, but you need food to live, right? So, but why would you fund it with insurance? Insurance is for something which is a huge expense you couldn't normally bear at one time, and it's something that's sort of a risk that you want to cover. because you're financially unable to cover right now. And so cancer, heart disease, major accident, or illness are all things you'd want to insure. And life insurance if you have dependents and you're the main breadwinner of the family. All those things make sense. But having insurance for, and there's all these things, like you buy like a consumer electronics, those insurance policies you can buy with the consumer electronics, huge waste of money. Insurance for your airline ticket, usually also. Extra insurance for a rental car. I mean, all these kinds of extras insurance you can get are usually like a losing proposition. And so insurance is something that really ought to be restricted to emergency situations that you couldn't otherwise cover with your current income. Okay. Oh, it's not. Thank you. Reminded me of that. Somebody want to volunteer a piece of paper? Near the front row, maybe?
Not row?
No, I'm sorry, in the front row, yeah. Yeah, it's the, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. So just to remind you again, on Thursday, if you want to go see Bill Ayers in Forum 309, knock yourself out. I'll be holding class here, at least for the first half hour, and probably for the whole time. And so I won't count against it. You'll get a freebie, you'll get a point for being here. If you want to come here and argue about socialism and capitalism, though, feel free to do that too. Or free to go listen quietly, or even heckle Mr. Ayers. I'm not encouraging you to do that, mind you. I'm just saying it's a free country.
Do we get extra credit if we heckle?
Very tempting, but you could like sit quietly in the back with a sign that says, "Why is the Peace Center supporting a terrorist?" or something like that. I thought about it.
And then we get extra credit.
What's that?
You're going to do the.
That's so tempting, but I wouldn't feel right about offering that for credit. It's just funny that there's institutional support for just sort of one end of the political spectrum. The faculty professional development, the professional development funds, and the Peace Center, all three are supporting it. Let's see, let me find the review.
I thought the midterm was on Thursday.
No, it's open today.
Oh.
So the midterm is not on any particular day. The midterm, let's see, let me get this on. The midterm is available for a week in the testing lab.
So when's the last day?
So the last day is next Tuesday. Next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So it means you have to get there by 6. Let's see.
So is democratic capitalism effective? Is that,
Oh, is democratic capitalism good?
as opposed to, just curious, what is the like republic capitalism or?
Oh no, it's like socialism or communism.
Oh, okay.
I guess the phrase that Steve Forbes uses for democratic capitalism would be sort of described as what's the word they use? Neoliberalism or something like that. But yeah, a lot of people think capitalism is even democratic capitalism is the bane of humanity.